Gerald was, I learned right off the bat, was a very bright kid. We were, so happened that our schedules were virtually identical. So, what the hell, we'd study together. Well, I quickly learned that he was a quick study and fit none of those old
stereotypes.
So I thought, well, I better change all of my belief standards. I'd already changed them basically on religion, and now it was all the social things. So I decided I'd throw out everything I knew from before that I'd been told or taught, and I would add back into my belief system what I thought was true, and if not, I could modify it. And so I began doing that pretty quickly. And so I became quite amenable to the social issues of the time. And that was the beginning of the civil rights era in the late 50s. Well, in the 60s, when John Kennedy became president, and the social issues came to the forefront through actions in Mississippi and Alabama. Then there were the racists in Michigan also. Of course, there still are, but
oh, yeah.
They were far less bad. Our politicians were, in general, quite good people. And we had a really good governor, Milliken, who was really advanced educationally or knowledge-wise. And he began to work with the blacks in Detroit, and they made some serious advances. Well, of course, that brought some backlashes. And when I got out of college, I took a job with White Motor Company, which was manufactured large trucks, both for the Army and commercially. And I got to meet a couple of blacks. The general manager of our firm, and he was also the second largest stockholder in White Corporation, which is still a large truck manufacturer. He had two black fellows that worked for him. And it turned out that I found out that his family all of his family had died in a house fire in Chicago, where he was from, and where he had bought a truck company, Diamond T, in Chicago. And when he bought into White Motor Company, he bought Rio, which was the company that I hired into as soon as I got out of college. So the general manager and this large stockholder of the corporation took this black fellow whose family had died, and he took care of him. And believe me, he took care of him. This black fellow had to keep his car clean. He did his valet work, kept his office, and anybody who made any remarks about him that were heard was severely punished.
Rightly
the
so.
word was around, you don't mistreat his black. Well, then he began in the civil rights era to hire more blacks. So early 60s, he began to hire more blacks. So most of the people in the company out in the plant, they were told that they had, and the union, there was a unionized plant, that the unions agreed to accept more blacks. But they had agreed to it, that didn't mean they were too
enthusiastic about it.
And were interested in treating them fairly. So the blacks were always given the worst jobs, the dirtiest, most dangerous in each area of the plant. And the plant manager eventually did not like that. So he would call a great big meeting. He would, at the last hour of the working day of the day shift, and the first hour or an hour early for the night shift, the plant usually worked two shifts. And then he would buy them beer, and he'd get to talk to everybody. So he let them know that the days of racism in his plant was over. And anybody found guilty of not treating them fairly would be fired. And so I was pretty impressed with that. So as a young kid, I was just trying to absorb as much information as I could. Started reading books and all the newspapers, and I discovered I had to read newspapers that were not necessarily local because they were not very good or very accurate. Anyway, I became interested in civil rights because I had had a friend in college who was bright, and I thought he should have a fair shot in life too. He's bright, nice guy. So eventually, well, my boss at Rio, we tangled quite often. And the general manager at one point had set up he wanted a new line of trucks to be built. And so he knew what he wanted. And so he knew what he wanted them to look like. But then you have to set up all the equipment to build, not only build them, we had the assembly equipment, but how they were going to be painted and treated for anti-rust and all this kind of things. So I began working with one of the plant engineers, and then it turned out the head plant engineer wanted in with us also. Well, politically he was in great shape. I quickly figured that out, and we worked really well together. So we went to a meeting, and the general manager set it up so that each different group would present its ideas of how to carry out all the functions of building the structure. Well, on the way to the meeting, I thought the plant engineer was going to present it. And on the way over there, he told me, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, I signed you up to present the information." So I had about 20 minutes to prepare the introduction, how our group had planned to treat all these things. And we had looked in detail at them, but I was not an engineer, so I understood logically how they would be treated and set up the units. So at any rate, when it was our turn, as I had been told, I got up and made the presentation. Well, when Now, when you give a presentation, you're also gonna get a lot of questions, and you got competing other groups. So they would pepper you with questions. And I was lucky that the plant engineer was helpful when it came to questions that I, not being an engineer, couldn't answer. Anyway, so after the meeting was all done, he announced that the next day we all had to come back, and he was going to announce the findings of the various groups. Well, when we got back there the next day, I just got to say that my boss, who was really an old-fashioned cranky asshole, was in a different group, because I could never possibly work with him. At any rate, the manager said, call the meeting to order, and announced that our group had won the prize. And we had not only won the prize, it had been accepted by the executive committee as being the only one. There were no alternatives that they could find that would fit in and could be meshed in with our group. So he assigned us the task of working